Okay, so then let's look at clay. Am paranoid about forgetting.
I was trying to get into gallery view, but it's not showing.
It should be as a little at the top. The little blue button.
Yeah, it's not. It's only coming up as Bluetooth. Then it has your screen.
So now we see half of your face.
Oh goodness!
You're gonna do that. Whatever you did, do it the other way.
Right.
Now we just
more
see
and
your
more
lips.
of you is disappearing.
Yeah, pretty soon we just gonna see your neck.
That's so weird.
There
Is
we
that
go.
better?
A little more.
A little more. All right.
That's it.
There we go.
Okay.
Success.
So sorry.
I love
like
it.
I said, I can't see myself.
Huh.
Surprisingly.
That is strange. Oh, I see Amanda Brooks has jumped in. Hey, Amanda. And I see Valerie jumping on. We're going to get started in about 3 minutes. Alfonso, hello. I'm keeping everyone muted just because we want to minimize background noise. But as you jump on, I will just send you a hello and thank you so much for joining.
I did it. I'm so proud of myself. I can see myself now.
You can see yourself, yes. See, that's a part of the health and healing strategies, right? Learning to see yourself, right? Learning to see yourself. And see yourself as the beautiful person that you are, right? So.
Hi, Dr. Phil.
Hey, Valerie. Hello. Thank you so much for joining and joining as a co-host to help a sister out in case, technology does what it do sometimes.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I am saying.
Is Reverend Wyatt on?
Rev Wyatt is not on as of yet, but Alfonso's on, Amanda Brooks, Grace is on, Kevin Bryant. Folks are signing on. We'll get started in about 3 minutes. Have a alfalfa hair strand as usual. This will be the last time that you're off the hook, Marcus. Next time I'm going to remember about that singing.
Okay.
You know how people are that can sing? They're like, oh no. And then they start singing and,
They get into it.
It all comes out. And you're like, what?
Yeah, that's usually how it is.
Mm-hmm.
My wife gets excited about karaoke and she's like, go sing something. I'm like, no. and then I get up there and I don't ever want to come down.
Exactly. All right, about 2 minutes and we'll get started.
How was everybody's weekend while we're waiting?
Great. Oh, I see my mother has joined. I'm so proud. My mom is tech savvy.
Yes.
Whoa.
I set my
Hello,
my appointment back to 2:30 so I could be on with you.
Oh, thanks, Mom. All right. Well,
That's
we'll get
awesome.
started in about 2 minutes. That's my mother, everyone, Patricia. And
Hi,
Hi.
Mom.
Hi, everybody.
all right. So, Mom, I'm going to put you on mute now.
Okay.
And I'll chat with you after. Sean Dove is on, Rodney coming on, team members coming on. Just give another minute. Lionel Smith, hello. Just give another minute, for a few more folks to come on, and then we'll jump right on it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're going to get started in just about a minute. Looks like a couple more team members are popping on, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right.
What you sipping on over
Deborah. Natalie. Hey, Natalie's on as well from Urban Institute. Hello. I'm sorry, Sean, what did you say?
there? No, I was asking Nedra what she was sipping on. Some mission over there.
Some berry tea.
Dr. Phil approved.
Right.
I approve. Okay, so I'm going to get started because I really, this call is being recorded and I want to be respectful of everyone's time, and we have a lot of information that we want to share, and I want to make sure that we get through all of the information. So really excited to have you all join us. Thank you so much. So greetings everyone, and welcome to Journey to Radiance, Health and Healing Strategies for Self and Community. And we are so grateful for this opportunity to share ways to improve health outcomes, promote self-empowerment, and nurture strong communities with you. And I'm sending peace and blessings and healing vibes out there to all of you as we move through this season of unknown variables. And so for those of you who don't know me, I am the Senior Director, Phyllis Hubbard, of BMA Health and Healing Strategies for the Campaign for Black Male Achievement. BMA Health and Healing Strategies is an initiative of the Campaign for Black Male Achievement that seeks to improve the health and well-being outcomes of cross-sector leaders working on behalf of Black men and boys through strategic communication, self-empowerment, training, and wellness education. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Campaign for Black Male Achievement, we are a national membership organization dedicated to improving the life outcomes and opportunities for Black men and boys. You can learn more about us at cbma.org. And so I am super thrilled to enter into a much needed dialogue with two of our strategic partners. Representing Sacramento City Unified School District is the exceptional, who would not sing for us today, Marcus Struther, and the queen of all that flourishes, Nedra Jen Wright of Flourish Agenda. So I want to share just a little bit about Marcus and Nedra, and we'll dive right into the discourse. So Marcus Struther is a 22-year-old, don't you wish, right?
I'll go with that. That'll work.
22-year veteran in education. He's been a classroom teacher, high school administrator, and is now a district director. His life's work with young people is and will always be about #LifeDataMatters, guiding our work into a place where the whole child is being developed and appreciated. This is data with a soul. And Nedra Ginwright is the Chief Flourish Officer of Flourish Agenda, a national social impact organization that works with youth of color, schools, youth organizations, foundations, and local governments to build and implement strategies that allow young people and the adults that support them to flourish. Love that. Nedra learned from her mother the power of stepping up as a leader, working on behalf of the voiceless, and getting involved to change social conditions. And so, without further ado, let us dive right on in. Very, very excited. Just a brief walkthrough of the agenda. I want to say also, before we get started, you know, if you have questions, please put them in the chat box. We will have some time for question and answers towards the end of the presentation. And so just a quick brief walkthrough of the report. This is it, very exciting. Journey to Radiance, Health and Healing Strategies. And so as we go through the walkthrough, we will be talking about strategies to heal self and community. And then to back up those strategies, you will not only have a report, but a social media toolkit that helps you talk about this as well and continue to share the love. So we're very excited about that. And we'll share with you our call to action and save time at the end for your questions. And so this is what the report looks like, Journey to Radiance, Health and Healing Strategies, and you can access the full report as well as the executive summary and the social media toolkit at this particular link, cbma.org/JTR report. And so before we get into the specific strategies, I wanted to just talk a little bit about the impact assessment methodology because as you all know, it can be a little bit challenging to quantify love and healing and hope, right? How do we quantify that in a way that makes sense? So, you know, we did the best that we could in this 3-year journey working with Oakland and Sacramento City Unified School Districts. We used participant surveys and interviews, field observations, focus groups, document reviews, data analysis, and key findings. But there were some challenges, and one of the challenges that I will speak to personally is, you know, when I would do a presentation, we would have people do a survey, and then a person would come up to me and then tell me the thing that I really wish they would put in the survey, right? And so, so sometimes being able to assess what was really happening, you know, was a bit of a challenge. And so I wanted to kind of open it up to see if maybe Marcus or Nedra had something to say about that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, Phyllis. I will chime in. It's Nedra speaking. So thank you for all of the work that's being done to lift up some of the data. And as Phyllis said, there's challenges around it too. One of the challenges that we noted is that a lot of the information that we need to assess are really soft skills, and it's hard to determine what those soft skills are. How do you measure healing when it's a journey, not a destination? How do you measure if someone loves themselves culturally? That's a really important dimension for our kind of Black health, and it's really difficult to measure. How do you measure the fact that someone may be having a good day and be really emotionally and physically fine, but then the next day there's something that happens? And so kind of lift some of these challenges up to say that we need more sophisticated tools, more tools that can assess in real time where people are in terms of their stress level and their current health. And when we can get those tools, it'll allow us to better have the resources and the strategies to mitigate some of those challenges.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'll definitely chime in just to say, finding those same issues while working with adults over these last 3 years, one of the things we did was work with Stanford University to try to figure out what can we do with our young people to be able to get that in the moment data. Kind of as Phyllis was saying, it's tough when you're in the moment and they're having those expressions come out and you know that they're feeling something, but they're not really putting it into the surveys or into the evaluations. So we started using photo voice in a different way, started really having conversations with young people, having them show pictures that will allow us to understand exactly how they're feeling at that moment. That way they don't necessarily have to say anything, but that started working for us. And we also used that later with adults, which helped us get some of that in the moment data that we needed to find.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, so, you know, it's just an ongoing journey to respect the process and try to gather, you know, appropriate data to satisfy, you know, funders and, you know, folks that are helping support this work. And so let's just talk a bit about the overall focus, because the overall focus of the work that we did in Oakland and in Sacramento, we believe is just universal, and it is curating a healthy ecosystem for Black men and boys. And this is a bit of a different approach. It is something that has been very near and dear to my heart personally, because when we do this work, we tend to focus on Black men and boys specifically, and that's a challenge, because if I do a presentation and I say, okay, young man, I want you to eat your vegetables, the ramifications of that are grand. Even if the young man wants to eat his vegetables, if he goes home and his mother says, let's go to McDonald's, or even worse yet, there is no supermarket anywhere where he can have great access to vegetables. So, you know, do we put that on the young man, or do we look at how do we create a healthy ecosystem for Black men and boys, right? And so that's just a small example. And so what we did is we tried to look at who influences Black men and boys in a given community. Doesn't matter where the community is, right? Whatever it is, we found that there, of course, there are the parents, the caregivers of children, right? We have the men and the women of the community. And then we have really the teachers and the other folks that are in the community. And so that's what we tried to focus on. With the parents and caregivers of children, we taught them healing-centered engagement strategies. And we called a lot of those presentations Triumph Over Trauma, feeling like if we provided the tools for the parents and the guardians, then they then could create a healthier environment for the young people that they are in the care of. And then we worked on recruiting and training Black male mentors to facilitate wellness mentoring circles and deployed them into schools. We also, worked on what we call stress management for teachers and school personnel, which is wonderful. I'm sure Nedra will speak to that a bit. And then looking at the environment in general. If we engage upon this work, it's not just about Black men and boys. Whatever we do with Black men and boys is good for everyone, right? And so how do we showcase Black males and community actively engaging in self-care? It's extremely important. And so I want to just pause there and say that these are the strategic partners that we worked with. We worked with Oakland Unified School District as well as Sacramento City. And then our strategic partners were Carries Mentoring, who did the recruiting and training of Black male mentors. Strategic Destiny worked with the parents and guardians, as well as Spirit Works. And Flourish Agenda worked primarily with the teachers and the school personnel. 393 Films worked with me to put out the podcast and some of the images that we garnered. A Touch of Life Wellness Institute worked with Oakland Unified School District, and they did some teacher training as well. And Radiant Health Strategies worked with pretty much all of the groups. And so I want to pause there and see if Nedra and Marcus would like to chime in from the perspective of the school district and from the perspective of the partners.
Yeah, definitely. I'll jump out first just to, lift up Brother Chris Chapman in Oakland, and he speaks a lot to the idea of the ecosystem and understanding that, looking from a school district perspective, we have that educational system that we know is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And it was never built for our young people, particularly our Black boys, to thrive. So thinking outside of the box and how do we get community involved has been great for us. Nedra will talk more to the work that Flourish Agenda did with all of our providers, really helping them become much more culturally relevant, but also being able to get deeper into their own personal healing, which made them be in a good space to work with our young people. But also thinking about Dr. Wyatt. I'm not sure if Dr. Wyatt is on the call, but Dr. Wyatt and the work that he did with one of our community partners, Jackie Rose, who really dived deep into the parent work, which is huge for us because I think we often find ourselves lost in a school district trying to figure out how do we get parents involved, how do we make sure that they are getting the necessary needs to be in a space where they can also be healed, because once our babies leave us, they're gonna go back home to that household, to that norm that they have been in forever. So being able to get our parents into a good space spoke volumes and really moved us in a great direction. And Miss Jackie has an incredible rapport with the community here in Sacramento. So thinking about when CBMA brought this idea in, really looking at touching into all of the necessary community partners, really going back to that it takes a village idea, really using that to build up so that our Black boys can thrive, has been successful for us. We've continued to use the processes. Our district has turned into a very health and healing motivated district. You know, we still got a lot of work to do, but we're doing some really great forward thinking and trying to get us into a great space. So we're excited about that. You know, and in terms of recruiting Black males, you know, the community of Sacramento has a strong Black male community that really wanted to get behind this work. So bringing in CARES Mentoring and Stephen Powell doing the work to be able to lift up our mentors has been amazing as well. So it's been a great process for us, and we're excited to continue the work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Marcus. Our work in Sacramento came at a really pivotal time. I remember the first session that we did there was right after we brought in this new president. And the impact that it had on the group, we needed a collective body of healing. People realized the impact that, one, there was just this overall sadness. There was a level of fear. There was a level of uncertainty. And for a body of teachers to hold that at that moment, we needed to engage in some real-time healing. And had we not had that space, or if those spaces don't exist, the young people are being served and supported by teachers and educators that are stressed out. To the extent that they're not even able to express that with their students, which is another challenge. So it's the stress that continues to get compounded and unreleased because they're in their, you know, quote unquote, we maintain these kind of professional positions that don't allow us to be human. And so when we first again worked in Sacramento, it was right after the election, and we just had a chance to kind of talk and grieve and cry and think about not just stay steep in the problem, but what is the possibility that this is creating right now. So there was a level of optimism that we were able to share in that space too. The other piece that I will lift up, which is really similar to this, is that our educators, and we all know this, have just as much trauma as the young people that they are serving. And that trauma is not post, it's persistent. And it's trauma, vicarious trauma from what's going on with the young people, and also trauma and stress in their own lives. So beyond, you know, an election cycle or even a virus cycle, our communities are steeped with levels of trauma that have to be constantly mitigated and healed. And so the work that we do, we lift up this kind of framework called the Healing Centered Engagement Framework. And underneath that, we look at 5 principles called karma. And I know that there may be some further discussion later on in the presentation, but I'll lift that up really quickly. The principles that we look at as it relates to people of color: karma stands for culture, agency, relationships, meaning, and aspirations. For the cultural part is really looking at how do, as people of color, we celebrate the who we are. That's something that's been under such threat, and we haven't been able to kind of flourish and step deeply into who we are, because who we are as people of African descent has constantly been stated that it's not good enough. And so part of our work is reaffirming that. We look at agency, our own individual power. We look at relationships. A lot of times the most strained relationships are within the bodies of people that we're working with, and it disallows us from working close together on behalf of the young people that we're serving. And so we do a whole lot around just relationship development and building. Meaning is looking at why are we doing this work in the first place? I always talk about, we did some work with one group of educators around meaning, and at the end of that session, that educator said that they were going to leave the profession because they realized it was not their passion. And at first I was like, oh no, don't leave. But I'm like, yes, you need to leave, because in the end, you're doing a disservice to the young people. And then the last principle in Karma is Aspirations A. And that's looking at a lot of the work that we were doing in communities, particularly communities of color, social justice communities. We're always talking about the challenges and the problem and dismantling and fighting, but we're not talking enough about possibility. And so our work in Sacramento and in Oakland was about how do we move from problem to possibility? How do we have some more aspirational goals? How do we stop calling upon the energetic negative stuff that we don't want and call upon more of the stuff that we do want? So just a lot of possibility thinking is how we structured some of the work that we did in both Sacramento and Oakland. And I can say this, in Oakland, and I just have to say it's a product of the work that we've all collectively done, they are moving towards a total district health and healing strategy for all of their kind of social emotional learning departments. So they're working it out and figuring it out. And again, I have to say that the seed that we're planting gave birth to them moving into this.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and just to kind of veggie back on what you were saying, I think it's just really powerful that after the work continued for a bit of time, I would say maybe a year or so in, one of the instructors up in Sacramento said to me, oh my goodness, I get it now. So health and healing is actually a part of my job description. And I'm like, yes, that's what we're trying to get you to see. And what I said to her is I said, if Chadwick Boseman decided to eat, drink beer and eat, donuts all day, he could still be an actor, but he wouldn't be Black Panther, right? So depending on what you're attempting to do, right? He could be an actor. He could be like the actor that Black Panther jumped over to get to somebody, to save the day. But self-care is a part of his job description because he has to look a certain way to fill that part. And educators are the same way. You have to come fit in your mental, emotional, and physical self in order to show up, and because you drive the energy of that classroom. And that's true of everybody. Whatever work you're doing, you drive the energy when you show up. How you show up, right, determines that. And so this is what we're talking about. And while this is focused on Black men and boys, these are universal strategies that, as Mama Susan Taylor said in one of our network calls, we need to be doing this anyway, right? It's really important. And so let's move on to what some of the specific strategies were for healing community. And so what I thought we would do is just kind of talk a little bit about what these strategies are, because they're so important. The importance of language, safety, permission, connection, community, and mentorship. And so I'd like for us to kind of piece that apart. And I think we had discussed taking two each. Is that how we were going to do it? But now I don't remember which two we were going to do. But I think I would like to talk a little bit about language, because this is extremely important. I think in our society, we are so inundated with information. And, you know, especially now, my goodness, with COVID-19, people are in a heightened state of fear. And when I have conversations with people, it's challenging for them to even name what it is that they're feeling. Like, what is it that you really are afraid of? Is it that you are now faced with your own mortality? Is that what it is? Is it that it seems close to you? Like, what is it that is really the issue, so that we can address it? So wellness and narrative change, beginning with the, you know, introduction of acronyms and phrases and slogans that speak to health and healing, are really important. First, being able to name for yourself, how do I feel? And then for the health and healing strategy itself to help you. And so an example of that people have heard me say all the time is, sitting is the new smoking, right? And so after this call, you all going to have to get up and stand up and stretch, because the call is for an hour, right? But other slogans that we saw throughout the work is, you know, connect before you correct, right? That's good for everyone. And so, the confirming specific language piece is extremely important, not just for yourself, but in ways in which you can actively engage in self-care. So I don't know if either of you had anything to add. I kind of feel like we should just chime in on all of them if you had something to add. No?
Nothing to add.
No.
It was good.
Okay, good. All right. All right, I did a good job then. All right, so creating a safe space, cultivating safe spaces are absolutely essential for the facilitation of meaningful healing. And cultivating a safe space doesn't always have to be about spending money to make the place look pretty, although it's helpful to bring in color and, you know, bring in, you know, essential oils so the place smells nice, or, you know, bringing in beautiful books or rugs or whatever. That's good. But creating a safe space is about what we spoke about earlier, which is, how am I showing up? How I show up begins the process of creating a safe space. I walk in energetic and enthused and excited, right? And I'm now creating a safe space for you. I'm looking you in the eye. I'm connecting with you before I correct you, right? Mm-hmm. And that creates in and of itself a safe space. One of the young men, Gavin, up in Sacramento, said that it was he and another Black student in his classroom, and the teacher never even bothered to learn their names. They were just one of the two Black kids that she didn't even bother to tell the difference between the two of them, right? And how dehumanizing that can be for the young men in the class, right? So creating a safe space would have been being intentional to know his name and to know the other person's name, right? If that makes sense. And so I'll pause there and see if you all had anything you wanted to add to that.
I'd definitely jump out. Just connecting, creating a safe space as well with permission. And Phyllis, I'm sure you'll jump in on this when I bring this up. Creating a safe space, definitely how you come into the space, how you show up to work, the energy that you bring. That was always my only classroom rule as a teacher. Be responsible for the energy that you bring into this room. But thinking about how do you give adults permission to understand that it's okay to fail, to understand that it's okay to have self-care, to understand that it's okay for you to be in your current life data, right? That you are coming to work with more than just thinking about how you're going to reach young people, that life is happening around you. So one of the things that we did, you know, thinking about Rumble, Young Man Rumble, we created the Muhammad Ali Center, where we took one of our old offices and turned it into a space where folks can go in and they can meditate. It could be a creative space. It's an opportunity for you to just go and breathe if you need to take a break. One of the things that we also did was bought plants for all our cubicles. You know, we're in a district office of cubicles that doesn't feel necessarily energetic. So not only did we get plants, we also have diffusers, but also thinking about when we do retreats. You know, one of the things that we did was we took our staff on a retreat and allowed them to go into the space and get a massage, you know, get your feet and your hands done, eat a good meal, and just be with each other as family and have permission to heal with each other. I think folks need to know that it's okay for that. The email I sent to my staff yesterday was, we're in a space where we're 3, some folks 4 weeks into not being in front of our young people. And our educator mind is going to want to tell us that, how do we get to the young people? How do we help them learn? How do we do this distance learning and really try to put more and more on ourselves to figure this out? And I told them to take a step back and understand that life is happening, that this virus is getting worse, that unemployment claims are going up, that medical workers are more and more stressed. And it is okay for you to just check in on young people and see how they're doing. You do not need to worry about math right now. You do not need to worry about what their physical activity may look like, although that's a health and healing strategy. But understand that people are in a space where we need permission for it to be okay to step away from the academics and to really focus on who we are as just human beings, because this is a humanity moment. So as leaders, how do you give permission to the folks around you to be in a safe space and to be able to then bleed that into the community in a way where everyone is getting that permission, from young people, parents, students, teachers, so on and so forth.
I want to chime in there and just say, since we're now talking about allowing permission for self-care, just a quick story, which is that Marcus, I don't know if you'll remember this, but Marcus said to me, I'm having a hard time getting my teachers to show up to this retreat that I want to do. And I said, this is what I want you to do. I want you to put together an agenda that talks about strategy and work and all the strategy we're going to build and put together for this retreat. Get everybody to sign up. And then when they show up at the retreat center, tell them to take out the agenda and then rip it in half and go get a massage. And that's really how we did, because people were just so guilty. Like, I don't want to have to take care of myself. But if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't fill up your cup first, you cannot be there for anybody else. I cannot give you $10 if I only have 5, right? So I don't know if Nedra, you wanted to add anything, and we'll go to connect to the body.
Yeah, I'll just chime in really quickly around the create safe space. So echo everything that's already been said around create space so that folks can be vulnerable. I do want to lift up the physical space as well. That's just my thing. If I were not in this field, I'd probably be an interior decorator. So physical space, I'm lifting it up because all too often in our communities, we end up having spaces that don't look very nice, don't feel very nice energetically. They're just not, the vibration is not right. And so with all that can be done to create a nice space, and it does not need to be a lot of money, but for a person like me, I like really nice, expensive spaces for folks, those of us that don't get a chance to be in nice spaces. So that's one of the things that I tend to try to promote. I've been, as a nonprofit, we always get the worst computers in the worst space. So I try to push that we deserve the best as well. I think Sister Mizan is on the phone. If there's anybody in our network that can create a really beautiful space, that sister can, with just using cloth and incense. It's just so important, and it validates people. And the other piece that I'll say about self-care that's just a little bit different, we use a lot of play and fun for self-care as well. So definitely meditation and yoga and all of those contemplative practices, but thinking about the role of humor, thinking about the role of fun, thinking about the role of play also has the ability to do a lot of physical and spiritual and emotional healing. And so we do a lot of game playing, a lot of physical activity and game playing in our work.
Really important. Thank you for sharing that. It's a big, big, big one. And so I'll just briefly talk a little bit about these other aspects of the work. Really important. Connecting to the body. Anyone who has been in any presentation with me knows that you are not going to just be sitting there listening. You're going to get up, stand, stretch, move. It's extremely important. How to connect with your body is absolutely key for mental and emotional balance. Sometimes you don't even know until you stand up and take a stretch just how tight your body actually is, that you're holding on to things. sometimes, grab a person's hand and say, relax your arm. And they're like, it is relaxed and it looks like this, right? They can't even tell that they're not relaxed. So connecting to the body is extremely important. Building community, recognizing that healing is not done in isolation, but as a part of a collective. We've been talking about that throughout the call. It is extremely important. We know that the work that we're doing with the parents is very connected to the work that we're doing within the school system and bringing folks together. It is all collective. We're all in this together. And then in terms of engaging role models, we've worked very, very hard to do intergenerational healing. And one of the things that I learned, not just here, but in doing a similar aspect of the work in Detroit, was that, a lot of the teachers did not know how to connect with the young people. And I'm like, you're teaching them every day. How are we not having this connection, right? This equal exchange. It was very, very interesting to see. And so we had to do a lot of work around how, when we say connect before you correct, what does that look like? What does connection look like, right? And how do you level that up? So I don't know, Marcus or Nedra, before we move on, if you had anything you want to add to any of those last points.
Mm-hmm. Probably just the build community piece to lift up, again, that the fact that healing is collective, particularly in communities of color, specifically in Black communities. We've had a collective trauma, and so the trauma has to be mitigated in a collective healing process. And so the way that we typically do that is through taking groups of people through very similar self-reflection, healing circles, and quite frankly, fun, engaging activities to build a level of community so that folks know that we can be vulnerable together, share our pain together, and also share our love, joy, and happiness together as well.
Great,
Yeah,
thank you.
And I'll just add with community, just to lift up Dr. Stacy Alt, who is now at Sac State, but was director before I came in, acknowledging the work that she had already done in Sacramento in terms of building up community. We have close to 50 community partners that are with our youth development department, and a lot of that work goes back to what Dr. Alt had already started before I came. So that has been amazing for us because, again, as much as we are folding into our teachers, we want to make sure our community partners are in the space because they are with our babies in ways that we don't even understand sometimes, and also with them on the weekends and checking in different spaces. So, again, to the Jackie Roses and Daryl Roberts and our Boys and Girls Clubs, really being able to bring community into the district allows for us to be a much more in touch district than I think we would be if we didn't have them. So just community is huge for us. So continuing to work with them through that and with mentorship, it just has made things a lot easier for us.
Mm-hmm. Could I add
Wonderful.
a little piece to that?
Sure.
The other piece about building a community is that it has a reverberating impact. And so once you start building communities over the days, over the weeks, over the years, other people are starting to get infected with this thing too. Mm-hmm. And luckily, this is a good thing. Infection, and infected with love, infected with it's okay to heal, it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to cry. And so even if people aren't in the space to get the work, once the people that have been in the space, once they go out, they have a reverberating impact on those other folks too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, I know when Marcus put together his Muhammad Ali Center, people from other departments were walking by like, hey, can I get in on this? Hey, what are you all doing, right? So it is contagious. We are right now in a situation where we're dealing with a pandemic and we're so focused on the things that we can't control. We're not thinking about what we can control. We can spread something that is much, more powerful than this virus because it's going to peak and then it's going to go down. And then who are we going to be on the other side of that, right? How are we showing up now? right? And so these are really important questions that we have to ask ourselves, because we'll be here, most of us will be here on the other side of it, and how we chose to go through it says a lot about who we are and, you know, what we are spreading in society. And so we spent a little bit of time talking about, you know, how we heal community. I also want to talk about how we heal self. They're all interconnected, it's both and, but in the report, you'll see that we put together a 10 of over 50 health and healing strategies. We have a whole bunch of health and healing strategies, but we only included 10 in the report, ways in which you can actively engage in self-care. I wanted to make sure that the report talked about healing community and healing self at the same time, because what I would notice is that I would maybe have a conversation with a principal or maybe even a superintendent, and I say, you know, I'd like to do this work in your school, and they're like, oh yeah, the teachers are stressed, I really need you to talk to the teachers. And I'm like, well, I need you in the room too, because you're a part of the process. You may be a part of the stress, and you may be stressed by the person who's above you, and I need that person too, right? And by the way, I need the custodians, everybody who is creating an environment needs to actively engage in their own self-care. And sometimes that was a bit of a hard sell, but that was the path we were on. And so I'll just briefly talk about this, but you can see this in the report in detail. We talk about it. We have it on our web pages as well. But really just thinking about wellness and narrative change, like challenging folks to choose their top 3 health goals, right? And use health and healing strategies to achieve them. Everyone can do that, right? Emotional and mental wellness and balance. One of my favorite, you know, kind of slogans that I say is to give from your excess and not from your essence, right? And some people don't even know the difference between their excess and essence because they haven't taken the time to think about that, but it's extremely important. Therapeutic nutrition, right? Eating those leafy greens. Everybody owes me leafy greens today, so I want leafy greens on everybody's plate, right? I won't be there to check, but I'm gonna just put it out there anyway, right? And then the healing power of nature. I was having a conversation yesterday about how, you know, in our history, we've really been acculturated to being afraid of nature. And I'm like, where do you think a Black man is safer? Walking down the street in the middle of the city, or walking down, you know, a nature path? I'm like, give me the coyote any day, right? So how many times will you see a coyote versus a police officer, right? So the healing power of nature, to heal the mind, to renew yourself. And then what I suggest is it only takes 108 steps for you to stimulate digestion. So after every meal, just go out, take 108 steps. It's less than a 3-minute walk, right? Everyone can do this. And then, you know, after 45 minutes, stand up and stretch for at least 30 seconds. Again, health and healing strategies, little things you can do to take care of yourself. Before you say something or before you do something, just take a moment to breathe in and ask yourself, what am I about to say and why am I about to say it? Because sometimes it's not a good idea to say it, right? Maybe you need to take a break, right? Maybe you need to step aside and like, you know what, maybe now is not the good time, right? Or what am I about to do? I'm telling you, this little action that you take can save you so much stress down the road, right? And then accountability, right? Tell a trusted friend what it is that you want to do to actively engage in self-care and have them check in on you, right? And then know that we are your wellness mentor as well. We have a wealth of information on our website, not just the report, the social media toolkit that we're going to talk about. There's a bunch of blogs, there's Journey to Radiance podcast. We have a plethora of videos, instructions. We have a lot of information to help you get started. So if you're somewhere out there in the world and you're like, you're not in my town, or you can't come, or we can't afford to bring or get started, you have what you need to get started. Always start with you and then see how things unfold, right? And so then reinforce the health and healing strategies by staying connected and committing to practice. And just know that we are here for you. So I'm just really excited that, you know, we're opening the door for people to actively engage in self-care while at the same time looking at how we're healing community.
Yeah, and Phyllis, just real quick to
Please.
jump in
Sure.
about nature, thinking about that piece, I see Brother Sean is intentively looking at the screen. So I want to shout out all the work that he continues to do for CBMA. He's been such a blessing in so many ways. And thinking about the Fund 2 Foundation and Robert Smith and what we started a couple of years ago, going out to Denver, Colorado with, about 40, well, we started with just our young men, but then last year we incorporated our girls as well. And it's interesting to see us get out there that first day and watch our young people not necessarily know, like, am I supposed to be here? Are bears gonna come and get me? Like, what's happening? Like, Black folks don't do this. But then, by day 2, 3, 4, we're horseback riding. We're, the boys and the girls are doing archery and they're, fly fishing and do not want to be inside, so it is amazing to watch how in a matter of hours, I would say, our young people become acclimated to nature. They become a family in so many ways. And just what Robert Smith, in the Fund 2 Foundation, along with CBMA, has allowed us to do, and so many people, from Ambassador Andrew Young, who participated in that, to Kanye West, sending the kids shoes. Like, it's just been an amazing opportunity for us being a part of that space. So just thinking about nature and thinking about what we've done over the past 2 years out there has been absolutely amazing. Changa Bell with the yoga, doing some transformational yoga pieces, which has been huge for our young people, just to watch them be next to the water, listening to that as it rumbled by as we were doing yoga. So just amazing. Again, just to touch on what you were saying with nature, that's been huge as well.
Absolutely. And one other piece I'll share is I do walk and talks all the time. Whenever someone wants to have a meeting with me, I'm like, if weather permitting, I try to do a walk and talk. And I went on a walk and talk with one of the instructors, one of the teachers at Oakland Unified School District. And I said, let's just take a walk among the vegetables during the farmer's market. And we just walked around a very large block. And by the end, right before he was ready to walk back inside the building, he turned to me and he said, I think it's a good idea for me to, I think I really need to seek therapy. And I thought, this person doesn't know me that well, but to be willing to open up and say, what, I've got this stuff going on and I really need to take deeper care of myself was just beautiful. And that was literally just going outside and going for a walk. The same meeting that you have in a room, you can take and walk around the block. And so think of creative ways to get outside, to actively engage in self-care. Make your meetings walk and talk meetings. And so that's just a little bit. You'll learn way more strategies in the report, but I want to be mindful of everyone's time. And I saw that there were some questions that I want to get to. So I just want to briefly go through just a few more pieces. Our call to action for all of you, if you are not a member of the Campaign for Black Male Achievement, please join. It's very simple. You just go to cbma.org/join and become a member so that you can stay engaged and involved and learn about these health and healing strategies as they come out. Share the report. The report is up on the website, the executive summary, as well as the full report and the social media toolkit, which I'll show you a little piece of. You can share it. And if you're saying, I really want to get started, I don't know what to do, the report is where you get started. You can just begin right there and begin to just take little pieces and begin to implement that in your school and in your community. And then pledge to actively engage in your own self-care. You are not off the hook. Yes, you, the person I'm talking to that's listening to me right now and in the recording, right? It's up to you to actively engage in your own self-care. And how do you get started? We have 10 health and healing strategies that are on page 25. Get started there. Pick one a day or however you choose to do that. And then celebrate your successes on social media using the hashtag BMA Radiant, Love, Learn, Lead, and Journey to Radiance. And so more of this information is, again, listed in the report and on our site. I want to just very briefly show you what, let me go back. All right, let's go back real quick. and just take a quick look. So this is an example of what is in the social media toolkit. There are graphics that you can put out, and I love this one in particular because many times people don't know the difference between a feeling that is healing you and a feeling that needs healing within you, right? And so you can ask, you know, are you experiencing a healing feeling right now or a feeling that needs healing? And if you have feelings that need healing, we can help you, right? And so this is just an example of a graphic that you can send out in social media. The entire social media toolkit, along with a complete guide, is up on the website for you to download right now after this call. We want to make sure that you have everything you need to get started to actively engage in your own self-care. And then before we go into questions, I wanted to just offer Nedra and Marcus an opportunity to share a last parting word before we go into questions. Is there anything else that you would like to share in addition to your quote, Marcus?
Yeah, I'll just jump out real quick. Won't take up a lot of time, but I just want to stress to everybody that human testimony is assessment. Remember that as you continue to move forward, as much as we look at surveys, as much as we look at people being able to write stuff down or answer bubbling questions, human testimony is assessment. As much as you can use that with our young people and adults, it will be amazing. I just want to lift up that I have an amazing youth development team as well as community partners. Not only can you see the work on the screen here that you can find, but you can also look at our YouTube channel, which is Life Data Matters as well, where we have a couple documentaries there where you can see the work that we've done in collaboration with Stanford University. So just continue to be healthy, be safe, and take care of your family as you're moving forward.
Thank you so much, Marcus. Nedra.
Yes, my, I guess, closing words would be, we are definitely in the midst of a human evolution, and we get to decide what it's going to look like on the other side of that. There have been some really bold actions that we've been able to see taking place as a result of kind of this crisis. And I think given that we've always had crises in our communities, we can use this experience as an experience to, one, we know what can be done. Policy-wise, we can house people if we want to. We can make all sorts of provocative decisions if we want to. The will is what's not been there. And so we have an opportunity now on the other side of this to shape and determine what we want and be more forceful in doing so. So that's one thing. And then the second thing that I will lift up is that I thank you for the charge to put on our own masks first. I am a work in progress, not perfect with all of the things that we've shared and what I know to be true that we should do to take care of ourselves. So just making sure that we know that we're human and we have to do the best that we can in the midst of this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Absolutely. We are all work in progress, myself included. And so I will just end with two things. One is the truisms that I like to share with everyone, which is you have the choice and the power to change your life. You have the wisdom and ability to achieve and maintain radiant health. And there is no bad part of you, only parts of you yearning for love, acceptance, or transmutation. And then I'd also like to add this quote that I think is so powerful from the good Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith. And he says, behind every problem, there is a question trying to ask itself. Behind every question, there is an answer trying to reveal itself. Behind every answer, there is an action trying to take place. And behind every action, there is a way of life trying to be born. Powerful, powerful words from the good Dr. Bernard Beckwith. And so, again, this is where you will find the report, cbma.org/JTR report. Health and healing strategies. Please check out our social media pages. Every day we're going to send out 2 different nuggets, pieces of wisdom. Brother Sizwe talked about filling your cup, which is on social media right now. So please do check that out. Every single day between now, April 6th and April 12th, we will be putting out all kinds of information on how you can actively engage in your own self-care. So you can add that to your toolbox as well. And so without further ado, I want to go into questions. I saw quite a few that are wonderful. Thank you all so much. I have so many wonderful people on the call. Oh my gosh, really exciting. So one of the questions was, is the healing work that's happening in Oakland being aligned or already established to restorative framework? Yes, this is not considered a separate pillar. What we worked very, very hard to do was to make sure that whatever we did was aligned with the work that was already happening. And I did not mention them as a strategic partner because they were not a technical strategic partner, but I worked very closely with Restorative Justice for Oakland Youth and other folks that were doing work with restorative justice. We did some connective work in ways that we could, and some of those folks served as mentors as well. So everything that we did our best to be connected into the community. So let's see, can we get a PDF of this PowerPoint? Yes, I will make sure that we send a PDF out as well. Let's see, okay, so yes, Dion asked, there's not a lot of open and green space, and walking outside during the school day is not always physically safe. Well, one thing that you can do is see if you can, this is something that I did at Oakland Unified School District, is we could work together on this, but there are specific herbs that are very healing. And what if you were to get some plants and bring the plants in the classroom? Basil in particular is wonderful for the classroom. And I don't know exactly what the configuration is of your school, if there is an outside lot, or even if you do challenges right now in Detroit, there's a school that's having an issue where they don't have phys ed, and they don't, people can't go outside right now because it's too cold. And then on top of that, all they have is the gym, right? And so what I brainstormed with that particular school is, let's do relay races back and forth, down the hallway, or do a step challenge, or, find a way to get the kids moving. And the interesting thing about the school in Detroit is it was the young people saying, hey, we need some exercise. It wasn't the adults, the young people were asking for it. So I think that's, you can be creative, but I would highly recommend, just getting maybe a few little plants and start putting them in the classroom. Bring nature inside if you can't take people outside, and then have them move while they are inside. Another question, let's see. No, I think that's all the questions that I had. I'm going to unmute everyone and see if anyone else might have a question so we can hear each other's voice.
That's what they
perhaps.
were putting something up.
Maybe not. Does anyone else have a question that they want to ask live before we sign off?
And so I stopped. I took a picture, so they were acting all.
Nope. Okay, I guess not. We'll mute off. Just thought I'd try it, it's experiment. Ty Lopez says you're supposed to do 200 experiments every year. So I always try to do a quick experiment. All right, so that looks like all of the questions. I don't know if
on 39.
Sean, anyone else want to add? Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
Nothing other than just a ton of thanks to you, Phyllis, for really just really infusing in not only in CBMA as an organization, but the field of Black male achievement, ethos of health, healing, and well-being, and thanking Nedra and Marcus and the rest of the partners for just building this with us. And we have a ways to go, but I do believe that this current moment that we are in just really amplifies how important this work is, right? And that it is important to address and prevent underlying conditions, health conditions, in advance than when something like a pandemic hits. So just want to thank you for the ethos of love, learn, lead. And this is a really powerful, important work. And I want to just thank all of the folks that joined us today, and spread the word. And we're going to be sharing the recording of this webinar. So thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, everyone. I am just full of gratitude and just, you know, it's been a dream for so many years to have just a platform to get people to think about health, right? Not as something that you do when you have the time, but as a way that you do the work. Health is how you work. So thank you all so much. Social media, one last person asked who's the social media staff for CBMA so that you can connect with us. You can find us on social media at Campaign for BMA on Twitter, at Black Male Achievement on Twitter, Campaign for BMA on Instagram. And just look for me as well. I'm posting everything as well, Phyllis Hubbard or Get Radiant on Twitter. So peace and blessings to everyone. Thank you all so much. And look, we are ending on time, 10:59. I want y'all to remember this, all right? 10:59. Everyone, take care, be well, and be radiant. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Very proud of you all.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mom.
Love you all.
Ellen, my
God
niece in the
bless.
background. Hey, Jaden. All right, take care, everyone.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.